Hello, welcome back to the City. I'm Simon Calder, and today I'm joined by my friend Clinton, aka Malion, and we're going to be focusing primarily on a dance night, a special one-off themed dance night called Katharsis that is occurring, if you're watching this when it's first aired, this coming Thursday. Eleusis Events is Clinton's kind of production company, and you're a lighting designer.
Yep.
As well as a DJ. Let's begin by focusing on what eleusis Events is. We were talking about this a little bit before we started filming, and also I'd like to foreground what plans you have as a lighting designer for this particular event, to get a sense of what's going to be distinct about Katharsis on Thursday.
Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, as you've mentioned, my production company is called Eleusis Events. Eleusis refers to an old town outside of Athens in Greece. It's now called Elefsina, but back in ancient Greece it was called Eleusis or Eleusis. In ancient Greece there was any number of mystery cults. They were devoted to the ancient Greek gods, but kind of more than that, it was a ritual coming together of different kind of essences of life. The ancient Greeks did a lot better job, I think, than us at kind of connecting with natural energy or the spirit in nature. So a lot of these gods represent, natural forces. In the case of Eleusis, it was the harvest right? So you have Demeter and Persephone being the daughter who gets sucked into the underworld to go marry Hades, the god of the underworld. And she's miserable down there, and her mother's grieving, and so casts the world into eternal winter. And finally, through her searching for her daughter, she finds her and tries to bring Persephone back and return life and joy to the world. But Persephone has eaten of a pomegranate in the underworld, and so for the three seeds she's eaten of the pomegranate, she has to stay bound to Hades in the underworld for 3 months of the year, and that's why we have winter for 3 months, this mourning period of the harvest. So that's the frame story for the Persephone myth, but it's also something that tied deeply into ancient Greek culture, this sense of renewal, death, and rebirth. I think especially in modern American society, we value life over everything. We value kind of creation and forward momentum, and there's something about when you step away from that sort of one-sided view of life and you get into what is death, what is renewal, how does that play a role into the continuation of life? The ancient Greeks were really thinking about this, and they would create these week-long rituals around the harvest season where people from all over the area around Athens would come together in this ritual site in Eleusis, and they would fast for a while. They would undergo ritual rites. They would drink a sort of a ceremonial wine that was infused with the ergot fungus, which has psychedelic properties, as well as goat milk and honey and wine. So you're fasting for days. You're drinking this kind of mind-altering wine, and then you go into a cave and you dream. And the whole rituals are meant to kind of imbue you with that story of the harvest and renewal and death and rebirth, and then you dream for at least 2 days, I think, and then in that kind of ritual connection with the creative unconscious, with the divine, whatever you want to call it, you come back sort of reconnected to society, reconnected to maybe something beyond your mundane life, and then you dance, and at the end of it, it's this big dance ritual, and all these people who have been renewed as part of the unconscious, right? You have to express that fervor. Yeah. So this has been happening. That was the BC. That was I don't know the exact date. It's been 700, 400 BC. We've been doing this forever, dancing, connecting with something outside of the mundane, reveling in just that rich unconscious spirit, and diving into maybe kind of parts of our own minds or of life that are maybe more scary on a first order. I don't think it has to be something we repress or shy away from. And so we see a lot of that connection back to the modern day, the role of rave dancing, of gathering in dark spaces, of letting sort of the cares of the day, of the mundane kind of trappings of causality, all that stuff that kind of keeps you locked in to think about stuff you don't want to think about, or dealing with problems that kind of suppress your spirit. There's a chance to say all that is for tomorrow, and today I'm going to reconnect with that sort of immensity of spirit, and dance as being a method to sort of let go, and
Absolutely, it's all very relatable content.
definitely.
I am a mystic myself, and
So I've been finding out, very, very cool.
yeah, and I discovered like a modern day mystery school essentially in Minneapolis, and the Sophia Wisdom Center was the name of the location. And my favorite services, essentially, they were Christian mystics that I would attend, were the equinox and the solstice services. And there was this same ancient respect for and intention to be with these seasonal changes. So I bring that up now because you did a dance church set a few months ago, and it was called Equinox. The music that's playing beneath our conversation is this Equinox set. December 21st is the solstice, winter solstice. So could you talk a little bit about the Equinox set, like how you are drawing upon your awareness of everything that you were just saying about the harvest and respecting these transitions, how you were drawing on that for the dance church set, and the analogous but different thinking that you have for making your Katharsis event and set be of this moment.
Definitely, and I'm glad you seeded me with a little keyword right there, which is transitions.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone thinks of what a DJ does, really, we transition between things. We don't make our own music. I mean, I kind of do, but mostly you're playing other people's music, and you're finding ways to move from one essence or one vibe or one spirit to another, right? And do so in a way that creates this consistent narrative or says something in the inconsistency of it. You're playing around with a form of transition. I think the best thing a DJ can do is really learn about transition, really understand what does transition feel like, what does that mean to be in transition, and how do I see transition around me. And the most accessible way that we have for that is time. I mean, the seasons are the classic transition of life, and bring with it any number of spirits of energy. In the case of that mix I recorded, the Equinox mix, it was at the end of the summer. And so
September 8th.
I recorded it kind of as the dog days of summer were coming to a close. And summer's an interesting one. It's full of hot, bright, active energy. As someone who has traditionally been more kind of in the techno idiom and kind of darker, more introspective, headier, red lighting kind of music or whatever, the summer's an interesting time for me because there is something, it does feel good to open up and to get out there and to see friends. I mean, Minnesota is like the classic place where it's, we're bursting with life for these 3 months that we have sunlight and activity, and then go into the eternal winter after that. So, I think for a while after moving here, I've been here for about 10 years, I sort of resisted the summer. It was like too hot and too active. But like lately I've been, they're acknowledging what the summer brings. It brings a certain energy that you don't have as much in the winter. And so how do you celebrate that? How do you celebrate that letting go, that just being okay, feeling good for a little bit, feeling okay, just reveling in community and joy, collective joy. That's
collective joy.
Yeah.
That's the key term.
But then also at the end of the summer, you're kind of seeing that all wind down. And so a lot of what I was going into the Stand Church mix, I was thinking, how do we acknowledge that joy that we've been through, and then also kind of lay the ground for, cooler times to come, and maybe pulling that back in a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of introspection before warehouse season.
Exactly. Reconsolidation.
Yeah.
So that's Equinox, and then going into Katharsis here, now we're fully in, so fall, really weird season in some ways. Everything's decaying. It's the season of death in so many ways, right? Winter, everything's hibernating. It's already gone through this transformation process in so many ways, and it's reconsolidating now. But fall is when like all of that ecstatic energy of the summer is like literally falling around you. Obviously, we had the election recently too. I mean, I think everyone's mind is this sense that as a country we're transitioning, as a collective consciousness we're transitioning in how we treat community and how we relate to the system or to each other and to society. And so, it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of pent up collective energy. There's a lot of sense of dissatisfaction, of I need to do something. I don't know what to do. Is action futile in and of itself? I don't have any answers to that, but I do know throughout my life, dancing and music and connecting to other people through that has opened up doors to me that I didn't see before. I've had that experience at so many critical, pivotal moments of my life. I think with Katharsis, I'm trying to open that door for other people to have an experience that connects them to the truth they already have within themselves.
Yes.
And I'm excited to see what that looks for everyone, but it's different for everyone, you know?
How is the lighting going to play into that?
Yeah, lighting. So yeah, as Simon, you mentioned, I kind of sub in at First Ave and in Fine Line. I do lighting there, and I've before that, have done a lot of my own custom lighting installs. Like really try to, there's something really important about, when you're in a space where the music's really tuned in to, elevate your experience or to pull you out of the mundane, that it's not just the music, right? The music's really integral into that, but it's also the darkness of the room. It's also the way the lighting even moves space. It makes you perceive space and distance and, perspective differently. I think that's all really important in creating the experience of lifting you away from the mundane, We're actually, we're going to keep it pretty minimal, all things considered. Some people might have the association with DJs as being, party lights and lasers, and it's all a little too much for my personal taste.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think there is something about undulation and of pulsing and of feeling like the room almost is breathing with you that can help almost like encourage your sensory apparatus to connect with, the world outside of you versus being so obsessed with your, internal sensation.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, when you were first announcing the event, you made a post about Katharsis and highlighted in that post that Katharsis originally referred to a physical process of purifying the miasma of failed rituals. So could you expand a little bit
Definitely
on that, please?
So this is a very interesting thing with DJing, especially because DJing, it's kind of how do you define what is a good DJ, right? It's hard to say, oh, that guy really transitioned from one song to another really well. Like, it's very subjective, right? But there is this ritual when you're up on the booth like that. There's this sense of like I'm creating this experience for you, and I could defile it at any sense. At any turn here, I could change the energy too sharply in a way that wasn't intentional. I could mix up a beat match and jar everyone out of their little trance state, right? Exactly. Train wreck. There you go. And this has been something we've dealt with as humans for a long time. In the Eleusinian mysteries, right? You would have these priests that are steeped in these rites that they've kind of secret rites that they've learned over their whole lifetime. And there's a sense that if I do any one of these things wrong, it could mess up the whole trance experience, the whole ecstatic experience. And so what happens when that does happen? What happens when, we have transgressed the form in some way? The ancient Greeks believed that it built up this thing called miasma, this almost like negative spiritual energy that was a result of angering the gods or displeasing the form in some way, right? And so sure, it happens, that sucks, but then how do you deal with that, right? How do you regain favor with the vibe or the gods or the divine or whatever you want to call it, right? How do you once you feel like you've gotten off track, get back on in that way?
Yeah, reestablish that connection.
The thought, at least traditionally, is that you need to cleanse that bad energy. And not to dive too much into no bad vibes kind of like. Of course, this is what we get into in modern history, right? Is that it's not just a matter of cleansing and I'm free, I'm pure, I'm blameless now. Bertolt Brecht is a playwright from the early 20th century, and he actually thought of catharsis as being a really negative thing almost. You should get the opportunity just to, like in theater, right, leave the theater being like, I've just seen some horrific content, I've dealt with a content of this play that has upset me, and yet the play gave me the ability to resolve that before leaving the theater. No, like I should leave this theater angry, unresolved, feeling like I don't know what to do with all this energy, and then go out in the world and do something good about it, right?
Yeah, because of course it's the rich theatergoers going for their entertainment. Could you expand a little bit more on the connection between Brecht's intentional avoidance of catharsis and Katharsis with a K, your Katharsis?
Totally. So the kind of music we're going to play. I think that's really where it's at. So I don't play poppy dance music. I don't play EDM. Maybe it's an arbitrary distinction. It's all electronic music for sure, but there's something about music that challenges you a little bit. It's fun. It's ecstatic. Once you get into it, it's not like it's like chin strokey, like, contemplative, whatever. Like, no, this is ecstatic music, but it doesn't lend itself to, a popular ear. It's stuff that you'll get when you get it, and you're not going to listen to this stuff just like, on a Spotify mix or something like that, right? It calls you a little outside of the normal experience. My goal as a DJ is always to ride that line, to make this accessible and rich and energetic and exciting, but also draw you to somewhere where you didn't think you needed to pull you out of that kind of comfortable state of dance too.
Not providing the experience that one might be expecting.
Yeah, from like a DJ night or whatever. It's that I want people to just be like, maybe I was coming in with that expectation, or maybe I was coming in, just with preconceived notions of what a dance night is, but this was enough like that I could entertain it and I could get into it.
It's
but
visceral. Dancing occurred.
This is different. This feels good because this is like, it reawakens what you thought this could be.
Speaking of awakening, Malion announces, "Awaken, ye sleepers." This is from the event description. "Cast off that alien body which shackles you to this fickle world, and bathe in the liquor of the ecstatic. Drench your senses in fervorous sound. Let your soul leap from your swooning body and unite once again with the infinite through the portal of revelry." I love that, through the portal of revelry. And it strangely fits. Initially, by coincidence, my band are playing an early show at the VFW right before Katharsis. As already established, I'm a mystic, and the collection of songs that my band Sunshine Emblem have and will be playing in our set are suffused with mysticism and a lot of the same ideas and commitments that you've been discussing. So the final song that in our set ends, "First the blade and then the ear. Those who have an ear to hear will dance." And there's a whole song called "I Let Love In," "Cut a Rug." "Cut a Rug" is the name of the song, where my task for myself was to put into song form my personal lived experience of the spiritual significance of dancing. With mud still wet and dripping from my dancing shoes, oh my God, I feel different, my God, I feel new. And it's the same
regeneration,
ethos,
yeah, totally.
It's the same awareness. And I connect that particular collection of songs and just that collection of songs with this kind of alter ego Cephas. So I'm interested in hearing a bit more about Malion. Malion seems kind of like your Cephas. Could you expand a bit on Malion? What is Malion?
Definitely. So Malion or Malion comes from Pygmalion, which you might have heard. Again, all the Greek myths connections that seem to be on the mind lately. I specifically am interpreting through the idea of the Pygmalion effect. So the Pygmalion effect is a social psychological effect in which the belief itself in other people, the belief in the goodness of people, the belief in the aptitude, especially like you see this in students, right? When you just kind of de facto assume that people are capable, they rise to that occasion, and that's one of those positive feedback loops of life, right?
That is my experience. Yeah.
Right. Like there's actually nothing inherent about goodness or badness or aptitude or whatever. It's deeply connected to that just process of reinforcement. That if I believe that we can do better, if I believe that you have the potential to do that, we can go there. But it requires that collective buy-in and the suspension of that cynical disbelief. It's easy for us to point out the flaws and everything, but that itself is oftentimes like a necessary process. It's an intentional process. It's a projection onto the other, right? And especially when it comes to community building, especially when it comes to art and blazing new trails into new frontiers of what does this look like? What does this sound like? What can we do together? I think Malion, I came out of a part of my life where I was like, let's just do better. Let's just believe that we can't do that, because the only way we get there is by believing.
Having faith in one another and oneself.
Exactly. Yeah. And through the music, opening up possibilities, right? It's a hard balance, because on some level you don't want to deny what is, right? There is pain, there is suffering, there is grief, and I think the most important thing in DJing or in any music or any connection really is to acknowledge where we're at, right? So you have to you can't connect to anybody if you don't see what they're currently feeling, and fully acknowledge that, right? I think it's a gift to see a musician who can really go down to the weeds and to really like grasp at the root of your suffering, but then to offer like a path to somewhere different, to say, you've been doing a great job at being in this moment, and look at all the other places that we can go to.
Yeah, facilitating that transition.
Back to transitions again, exactly. That's kind of a little bit of the ethos behind Malion.
Yeah.
And then you also have the synonym of alien, Malion. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a little bit of that.
I love that too. It's, your Malion. Malion is to you what Cephas is to me, or pretty much exactly. Having faith in oneself and faith in others, and commitment to recognizing that dancing and creating music is a spiritual practice.
Yes.
That's key for me too. And particularly through the portal of revelry.
It's how we release. It's that ecstatic experience. It's you're getting out of your head. I'm someone who, you can tell, I'm very much in my head. I think about a lot of stuff all the time. I'm always
relatable.
Which is great, But I couldn't live my life without also having the experience of letting that all fall to the wayside and recognizing that's just this whole Clinton project that's on this earth right here, and like actually the sum total of experience is so much greater than that. And once I set aside the ego or set aside the the self, like there's a billion worlds out there, there's a billion ways to be, there's a billion feelings and all that you can only tap into through allowing that mind or that self to kind of just chill out for a bit, just and oftentimes the portal to that is revelry. It's through casting off all those that little system you've built yourself. We're all very good at building these systems of ourselves. We spend our whole life constructing the self. Putting this is me. This is what I'm not. It's great. You're doing a great job.
It is what it is. Yeah.
And we're offering you the experience to say, look what else we can do. Look how else we can be. Look how else we can connect and exist without our little projects we've been working on for a while.
Yeah. Letting go of being Clinton, letting go of being Simon, letting go of being whomever one tells oneself one is for a moment. Then there is the return, and perhaps the experience of being Simon again post Katharsis is slightly different and informed by this connection and the collective joy.
I think of it totally like the whole seeing the forest for the trees kind of metaphor thing. It's like when you're in the woods, when you're in the weeds, whatever metaphor you want to use, like your problems are all about navigating on that scale, right? You're trying to figure out how to survive, right? But if you're able to zoom out a little bit and to see, put things in perspective, you might come back to that original perspective, come back to being on the tree level, having seen the forest with a little bit of a different sense of how you want to do this, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to say, now you're, ascended from it all. Like, no, you have to come back down to the original project, but it does help to see things from a different light, or to understand things in the right place too.
Yeah. Pouring out water for wine is a helpful visual metaphor that relates, I think, to the purgation and the catharsis you've been discussing.
Yeah.
Like the metaphor of emptying a container so as something else can come in.
You got to do it.
And influenced by immersing myself in the understanding of catharsis and what catharsis is, our Sunshine Emblem set from the early show, that set is called Pouring Out Water for Wine, from this Katharsis song again, where there's a lyric about purgation. As night follows day, we're all on the purgative way, being passers-by, pouring out water for wine. So we're all on the purgative way. I feel that we are all able to follow what the Greek philosophers are kind of theorizing about, speaking about from experience, these rituals where one is able to purge and process the emotions. Could you expand a little bit more on this idea of the purgative way? Have you ever heard that phrase before, the purgative way?
I like it. I haven't heard it in so many words. It's like a spiritual
practice that's all about purging, which is central to that collection of songs of mine, and seems to be absolutely central to Katharsis too.
Yeah.
Any further thoughts on purgation, and perhaps maybe on this specific ancient Greek philosophers, because we're both philosophers too, it seems. You were talking a bit about Pythagoras before we started. Are there specific ancient Greeks that inform your thoughts about catharsis and purgation?
So I've just been digging into Plato this year. Love him or hate him. I know the jury's out on Plato, right, in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Dualism.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, right? But there is this sense that I got from him. It's a Gnostic philosophy, and Neoplatonism kind of came out of this and really explored it in a way I think is even a little bit more interesting, although, again, has its own pitfalls. But Plato's, especially in the Republic, his whole thing about the cave, right? There's this sensory world that we're stuck in most of our times, right? We're basically, he says, we're prisoners sitting on the back, of a cave, looking at shadows being projected from some unknown source, and we're basically just sitting around all day with our buddies saying, I think that one looks like a sheep, and that one looks like an urn maybe, and just trying to prove how well we can discern these illusory projections.
Yeah,
right?
how much we know. About this.
I know, right? Which
shadow.
you can see, especially in the music scene. You have a lot of people, and in the whole world, it's just a lot of people just kind of defining things, putting little, like, oh yes, this is this and that's that, and
Have you seen the Plato's rave image?
No.
So I'll bring it up now. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's Plato's cave, but Plato's rave. So it fits really
Plato's
well.
rave,
because
yeah, it's pretty
there's
good,
the
yeah.
lights and focus on the shadows
Yep.
in the rave, and then people are emerging post rave. But
Totally.
Iris Murdoch is my favorite Platonist, and she focuses much more on like the importance of the return to the cave.
That's what I was going to
and
get.
the
Yep.
cave is actually.
That's real.
Yeah, exactly. That is real. And speaking of reality, that's where the transformation can occur. The philosopher rule goes back to that's the goal.
You have to come back.
Yeah, so it's not all if we're just like, okay, we must escape from the cave.
It's the point.
Exactly. That misses the forest for the trees. We spoke about Malion. Malion is one of two DJs involved in this event, Katharsis. Mike M. Golan is performing as well. I liked Mike's statement about music and dance being the number one way to process big emotions for Mike as well. Grief and the overall heaviness of the world around us. There's something special about the collective healing energy that a dance floor can provide. We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
With that, could you say a little bit about selecting Mike to DJ the event?
Definitely, yeah. Mike, awesome guy. He's just really one of those deep selectors, people who understand how to work a dance floor, how to balance that joy and that collective enthusiasm, but also cut a little deeper, bring you somewhere different a little bit, give you an experience outside of the norm. When I first designed this event, I was just like, he was the first person I thought of. Just perfect for making music that is rooted in the underground. It is underground music, but it's also has that kind of more accessible energy to it. As people, it's something that's going to be different from your standard kind of techno night or house night, right? I love that. I come from the techno world. Like that's my background or whatever.
That's
right?
where I met you.
Totally, right? Yeah.
It's your natural habitat.
Yeah, I mean stuff like the IntelliFunk parties and
Yes.
the Great Beyond, all that kind of stuff. That is the Minnesota tradition that I want to continue on in my own way, right?
My favorite events.
I know, right? Just some of the best stuff around here. So Mike, he's also steeped in that world, but also has his own unique take on it, right? He plays fun music. He plays music that is, expressive, soulful, funky. Like he often goes by the moniker Funky Monks.
Yeah.
Totally. It just it's just a sweet spot for what I'm trying to do here. It's
Absolutely.
it lifts you up, but also acknowledges what is too.
Yeah, back to the collective joy again.
It's a community. It has to be community, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of I think musical forms that are they prioritize the individual or the artist as being this I have my own experience and this is my this is what's going on for me, and maybe you can kind of voyeuristically peer into that. But dance is kind of different in that sense. The DJ should be kind of the last person you're thinking of in all of it. You're the music and the speakers and the environment. That's the medium, right? And it's about the community coming together around that. Yeah, if it's not about the community, it's not really about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the Intellifunk events do really get that. They really embody that.
And I mean, you look at, I'll travel to the coast and stuff like that too. I mean, I'm from New York originally. I'll go back there and like go to a techno party of even the same artists that I'm like used to around here. I'd be like, this isn't the same thing, you know? Because it's not grounded in that sense of like, these are people pouring their souls and their parts and really cherishing the ability to come together, the privilege it is to join together on a dance floor and have an experience that is not just another, you know, social chin stroking or whatever, you know, how many Instagram followers do you have? Like, we don't have that energy around here, and it's so cool.
It is.
It's a gift.
So we'll be experiencing dance music from across the underground, stripped down to its passionate core for your spiritual delight.
That's right.
as you
mark my words.
Really well. That's going to be this Thursday, if you're watching this when it's first aired, and it will be preceded by John Emblem and Friends featuring a Sunken Ship Irony, who I also have in the studio to discuss many of these same themes. Actually, we'll be discussing ritual in relation to their Tangled Smoke EP. So stick around, viewers, for a live performance of Josh and Ivy from Sunken Ship Irony in the studio. They, again, will be performing, as will Sunshine Emblem, in an early show. That's just $5 advance, $10 at the door, same as Katharsis, which will start the same night at the VFW at 9 o'clock. I'm really excited for it. Thank you very much for coming in today, Clinton.
Thank you, Simon. This has been great.
You're very welcome. And viewers, stick around for Josh and Ivy on Back to the City. They'll be joining me right now.
Devastated open eyes. There's no progress in these times. We spend all our time on time, finally tied up way too tight.
Did you forget to sleep again? Did I forget to eat again?
Defiant through the uncompliant silence of the past few dozen
Did I forget to sleep again? Did I forget to eat again?
I can tell that you're still sad and so am I, and maybe that's just fine. I can tell that you're still sad and so am I, and maybe that's just fine.
I sat there holding your hand until 3 a.m. and I
Felt the weight on my back of the places that we've been.
and I can't shake the feeling that this was
The end.
But you've gone away and I still
Think about you every single day.
I don't know when that will change, and
I don't know if that's okay.
I'm ashamed that I just crumbled in, tired of cliche.
We spend all our time on time, finally tied up way too tight. Defiant through the uncompliant silence of the past few dozen
Tries forget to sleep again. Did I forget to eat again?
I can tell that you're still sad and so am I, and maybe that's just fine. I can tell that you're still sad and so am I, and maybe that's just fine. I can tell that you're still sad and so am I, maybe that's just fine.